Picture this. It's 10:30 at night. It's my husband's Friday, which means it's my night off. I've stayed up late, took a nice long hot shower, and as I climbed into bed, I contemplated my options. I could either stay up late and read a good book, or I could drift off to sleep knowing that should our babies cry, it's my husband's turn to wake up with them. I had not so much as sat down on my bed, and that all too familiar alarm went off. If you know the drill, you know. I looked over at my husband and I said, "Do you need to go?" And not in the whiny, "please don't leave me again" voice, just in a calm, assertive, "I know what that is, but I'm just going to confirm it is what I think it is, and you are indeed leaving right now." And sure enough, he was. If you relate to a story like that, then you've found your place. Welcome to the Blue Line Living Podcast. And I'm your host, Jessica Manzano. I'm a police wife, the kind that lives in that 24/7, 365 on-call status on top of the normal 410 work, the kind that also runs her own business, raises our 3 children, 2 dogs, maintains the family social life, budgets and pays all the bills, and tries to find time for my own hobbies type of police wife. We're newer to this field than some. This is my husband's second career. He started it when our oldest daughter was a baby, and at the exact same time that I started my business. If you're wondering, I do not recommend starting a business, going through academy, and having an infant all at the same time. Yeah, highly discouraged. I had no idea what to expect, but I figured my dad worked shift growing up, and it can't possibly be that bad. Besides, he was interviewing and working at the safest city in our state, so it'll be fine. Famous last words. Yeah, fast forward 3 short years, and our first officer ambush happened. First officer death in nearly 40 years in our department. Thank you, 2020. Only 17 months later, our second officer was killed, this time in a domestic violence incident. We had a rude awakening. My little family grew up fast in this field. It was after this that I knew I had to find a way to combine our worlds. I couldn't continue living in the real world and expect my husband to come home and join us every time he was off shift. We had to find a way to sync up. This was our life now. We are a first responder family. And as much as it is not our identity, it certainly is a large part of our lives now. And that's what brings me here, sitting in front of a microphone and praying that this new venture becomes light and wisdom and hope and encouragement to other first responder spouses like me. I went searching. I went searching for something that I'm hoping to provide now because what I didn't want more of was more black sock jokes. Although, yes, I fully participate in those jokes because they are true. I also didn't want tips on how to pack my husband's lunch or how to greet him when he came home after a hard day with a full cooked meal and space. I don't need that advice. I needed something to help me juggle. I needed someone to show up and tell me how to juggle all these balls I have in the air, how to keep my head on straight, how to help raise my children in this first responder world. For the first responders, there are more and more support, more and more acknowledgement of the actual traumas that they face on a day-to-day basis, the recognition of the personality changes and the lifestyle changes that come with the job. There's more and more wellness and growth and opportunity for first responders, more conferences, just more well-rounded access. For the spouse, although there are some, and that is growing thanks to things like this, I've found very little support of what I was seeking. very little acknowledgement of the secondary trauma that we face, the lifestyle changes we face. When our spouses come home after a 14-hour overtime shift and they're exhausted, rightfully so, and go straight to bed, yes. No one talks about the 48-hour shift of we're coming off of balancing parenting and our own jobs. Truly, it's as close to single parenting as you get while being married. We're tired too. We face a lot too, and we try with all our might to put on a smile and show our spouse the support they need, show up for our children the way they need it. And yet, we need something too. We need our buckets filled too. So, consider this the space where you can go to find your Me Too moments, the relatable and hopefully relevant content you've been looking for. I have friends now whose husbands serve as police, fire, paramedics, EMTs, even dispatch. Yes, there's the brotherly love rivalries through each department. And yet, at the end of the day, many of them are on the same shift, the same calls. And as wives, we're all impacted in very similar ways. This is a calling and a lifestyle not everyone can understand. And so when you find your people who do, hold on tight and support each other through this ride. I hope to be part of that support for you. Together, we will learn and grow and encourage each other and maybe let out a small vent every now and then. Throughout this first episode, I want to just give you a brief introduction about who I am, how my husband and I got to where we are. And I also want to paint a picture for where I see the podcast going and give you some sneak peeks onto some topics I hope to discuss. So, with that said, who am I? Well, I'm your Colorado girl. On any given day, I can be found with a pair of sunglasses on my head, which, if you're watching the YouTube video now, you can see. These baby blues are very sensitive to lights, come to find out. I can also be found with a hefty water bottle by my side because I'm a product of the Nalgene generation, which means that we made carrying water bottles popular long before Mr. Stanley came along. Okay. My husband and I met at college, actually. He had just finished his undergrad in strength and conditioning and had started his master's in sports coaching. I was right at the end of my undergrad and playing rugby, and that's how we met on the rugby pitch. There is many facets to that story. However, it seems to be working out because we will be married 9 years this summer. We have 3 little girls now, and life is crazy and chaotic. Right after college, my husband took a job coaching. So we moved to follow that job. And come to find out, the coaching field is not a well paid industry. Shocker. Unless you make it onto the big time pros, that's just not what it looks like. So we moved back home. I quickly got a different job and actually found somewhat of my preferred field. So I was very happy and content. My husband, on the other hand, got a job but was seeking more. He wanted to find something that really fulfilled his purpose, that helped him not only be a provider, but really make him feel like he was doing something meaningful and impactful. So I knew he was on the job hunt. I did not know what industry he was looking at. One day he came home and said, "Hey, I have an interview this week." I said, "Great. Wow. I didn't even know you applied for anything. What is it?" "It's with XYZ Police Department." Yeah, I think maybe my jaw dropped on the floor. I don't think I knew how to react. Uh, the best part was he followed it up with, "Oh, by the way, you have an interview too." Yes, did you know that they interview wives as well to make sure that the family support system is there for the officers? Which is great. That's a wonderful idea. However, I faked it. I definitely faked that first interview because No, I was not fully on board with this new venture. Nobody had discussed it with me. This it was just jumping all in and figuring it out as we went. So, I think it's working out. That's it's okay. We've had our bumpy roads to get to where we are, and as I stated earlier in the show, I am seeking and creating the support that I need to make this the best venture for us. Um, for the remaining of this season, for the remainder of the season, I have a few big ideas kind of on the docket. So, here's a little brief hint at what I have planned coming on. I want to talk about some big topics. I want to bring on some cool co hosts, interview some cool people, and I've got some big dreams. So, one of the topics I want to talk about is burnout. Yes, we are going to dive all into this because I want to provide information and content that's going to be helpful to you. And I was listening to another podcast not too long ago where they were discussing burnout for the responders and what that looks like. And I got my wheels spinning and I was like, gosh, that is a similar thing to what the spouses feel. Burnout for on the spouse's side is very real. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about leadership. Oh, yeah, leadership within the departments and what that reform might look like should it be necessary. We're going to debunk the hero myth because if you have not been told by your first responder, not all of them like being called heroes for a reason. I want to discuss secondary trauma. Shocking. I've got a couple good books I want to review with you. We're going to discuss life with a couple other first responder families because this is called the Blue Line Living. So, yes, we are backed with a police family. However, I want to represent all first responder spouses. So, we're going to discuss what life is similar and different, maybe, for other responder families. And I also want to interview some grown children that grew up in this field to get an idea of what it was like to be a kid with a first responder parent. So, if you made it this far, I want to thank you for sticking it out through this first episode. It's a short and sweet one. I plan on making them a little bit longer, more packed with content. But for this one, I wanted to just give you a quick little rundown and give you an idea of who I am and what to expect. So, thank you for being here. My big goal is to help this reach as many first responder spouses as possible. And the best way to do that is to subscribe to the show and leave a review so that this can reach as many people as possible. It can get pushed out and sponsored. Okay. So please take a minute to give me a review and click that subscribe link, whether you are on YouTube watching it or on your favorite podcast network. And I'm going to leave you with this. Blessed are the peacemakers. If you know scripture, you probably heard that verse many times, and it's often referred to for police, first responders. Yet the actual content is really for everybody. It's relevant for us all. And it's truly just a character in us all that we should be displaying. So as you go out into this week, into the rest of your week, I pray that you feel the calling to be the peacemaker in your home, in your community, in your neighborhoods, and in everywhere you touch, because blessed are the peacemakers. Go out and have a great week. Thanks for being here on the first episode of Blue Line Living.